So understanding marketing analytics. So this is a very, you can say, boring topic to many people, because you also want to talk about the creative things. How is the content like? How is my social media? How social media post like? How is the next video that we are going to do? But nobody talks about what happens when you actually create it and when you actually publish it and what's going to happen. So in the next 45 to 50 minutes, and just excluding the question answer side, my idea is here is to excite you about this subject matter and tell you this is not just an exciting subject, but it has a great value proposition for your business. If you are an employee, I'm confident by learning this, you can add tons of, you can say, value for your organization. You can help them in taking business decisions. You can even help them in taking marketing decisions, product decisions. And if you excel in the subject, you can even tell them taking the pricing decisions, which I feel is extremely complex. So yeah, so let's jump right in. And I wanted to introduce myself. Oh, of course, I forgot it. So actually, I'm head of marketing at Vazel, head of growth at Exor Labs. I founded these two companies like in the last 6 years, and even before that, I my background started in a magazine. I built my own magazine, my team. At the Epicenter, we used to publish stories from, you can say, politics, colleges, technology. It turned out to be exciting. I led there as editor-in-chief for 3 years. I was telling people what kind of content to create, how to increase the readership, bringing in advertisement for the magazine itself. And that's how I built my initial team. And since then, I was confident that this is working amazingly, I started my digital marketing agency. And that's where we started providing consultancy on content side. And eventually we went into performance marketing. That's my actual core expertise. So I spent personally $17 million in advertising, and you can only spend that because you are really good with marketing analytics. So if you're doing something at that scale, you need to be extremely strong in analytics. And it has been across different sectors: e-commerce, finance, healthcare, financial technology, education technology. So it has been across different and multiple sectors. And finally, I've worked with a variety of business, and that's what I like about my work. So I get to talk to people from all sorts of life, very different kind of businesses, and it has allowed me over a period of time to understand how different marketing strategy works for different kind of businesses. Something that you are trying to do for education might completely fail at a finance company. So yeah, essentially, that's my introduction. And the current company, Vazel, where I'm heading as head of marketing, it's a social media competitive analytics tool. I won't go into details. If you want to go and you can check out what exactly it is. But yeah, moving on, what are we going to discuss in the next 45 minutes? So first thing we are going to talk about is
so that can you just full screen the thing in the presentation?
Let me do that. All right, is it good now?
Yeah, better. A lot of them are using from phone, so they won't be able to see it.
Makes sense. I think this should be better. Sorry about that. So first thing we are going to discuss is introduction to marketing analytics, and notice the word extremely brief. I'm saying this because I feel that this subject itself requires 45 minutes. But yeah, we'll be talking about it in very brief. The second thing we are going to do is I want to get you real life examples and practical applications. So I'll be sharing 3 case studies that I have with my work. So I think that will be a great insightful session for you, those specific 15-20 minutes. And then I'm going to tell you how you can make a framework and make it work for your company. And finally, I'm going to share with you some courses or maybe some tools that you can actually use to make marketing analytics happen, or set up the infrastructure, and you can say increase the build the culture of marketing analytics inside your company. So yeah, let's get started. So as I told you, we all talk about doing a social media post. We all talk about creating that content, but what actually happens after it? marketing analytics is making sense of, or you can say collecting the data of all your activities and then making sense of it. Technically, it is done for a variety of purposes. Usually, if you go to a general, you can say head of marketing like me in a company, my job is actually to always look at this data and ensure that we are collecting this data, and at the end of the day, apply it to business decisions. So how we can maximize the ROI. And in a product company like Vazel, the application is also multifaceted. So for instance, it also helps us identify my product has 8 different or 10 different use cases. What are the 3 major use cases for which people are liking my product? So I can actually go back to my product team and tell them, you need to actually work on these features instead of these 7 features. So that is another great example of the application of marketing analytics. But essentially, in any organization, the core user is to maximize the ROI. And if you talk to any marketer, this is why a marketing analytics is actually used for. And I want to just focus on the final 4 words or 5 words of this definition that is from Adobe. Identifying opportunities for improvement. So when you have collected this data, all this data you can actually use to improve some aspect of your business. It doesn't need to be marketing, it can even be sales, it can be product, it can be technology, it can be something else entirely in your company. So that's why marketing analytics had such a huge application. And I want to keep these 2 things differently when we start. So one thing is collecting the data. So when you're starting out with any activity in marketing, the first thing is how you are collecting the data, and it is different from making sense of it. The second part is where you go into analytics, you try to understand the data that you have collected, how you can make sense of it. So all these metrics that you collect, it doesn't have a meaning in itself. It's just plain numbers on a sheet. It's simply a table in Google Analytics, or it's simply a table in your analytics software that you're using. The next part where your expertise comes is how you can make sense of it. So there are manual ways, there are you can say tool-based methods, and there are at the same time technological or code-based method that you can deploy. But essentially, it's your job as a analytics manager or head of marketing or a general digital marketer at your company to acquire this data, which is one thing, and then making sense of it, which is the other. Now, as I told you that it has multiple applications, but one of the things that I didn't mention is the final thing, that is forecasting future results and forecasting even revenue. I'll give you one amazing example at the end of the session where I'll show you why one of my clients actually left, because I actually predicted the cost per acquisition for him, and he was sure that this cost per acquisition is not going to work. But the point is, this is a great consultancy service as well. You can, even before launching your service, you can be sure about, if I go with this marketing channel, my cost per acquisition is going to be in this range. And you can even monitor trends over time. So for instance, there are some finance businesses in which January to March period is at the peak, and maybe April to, and this is a trend I'm telling you about UK. When you're talking about mortgage loans, even if you go into Google Trends and just check it, you will notice that January, February, March is the peak period. So that's when you can actually scale your advertising budget. That's when you can ensure that you are at all the advertising spaces. And maybe by the end of the year, you just need to ease yourself down. So as I'm saying, it has huge potential. It has huge applications. And if you just apply it wonderfully, I think you can actually make big changes at a company. And even after that, there are many, you can say, jargons to it. I won't go into detail, but you can take amazing decisions for using marketing analytics itself. Uh, just another example from this one, there's one keyword which I feel that you can actually use right now is customer lifetime value. So I think if you have done, you can say, customer analysis for any of your company, or if you are a business owner, you want to do it for your company, you want to segregate these people who are spending the most on your platform. So let's say you have 10,000 customers. who are these top 500 people who are spending the most in for your product. So you just need to map these people out and try to find these people more in the market. When you're creating advertising strategies, how you can find these 500 people more when you go out and create marketing campaigns. And similarly, there are other applications as well. For instance, pricing analytics. In e-commerce, we do it extensively. So let's say you have a product, you price it at $69, $49, $29, and try to see at what price point the conversion rate is highest. So it is one very simple example of how you can use the pricing analytics and make sure to price your product right and maximize your margins. And at the same time, it has applications for even sales as well. So marketing, it doesn't seem like that, but marketing analytics can also help improve the sales team's conversion rate. If sales team has the data of what kind of audiences are best converting, marketing professionals or marketers can actually create campaigns to target those specific people. So yeah, essentially this is how diverse this field is, and there is so much more to it that even if we are starting out, I'm confident there are things that we have already left. But let's talk about a framework, which is a very simple framework, and I want you to introduce to you because this is something you can take away and start applying in any organization that you're working for or any organization you join. And this is how the process looks like. So let's say you hired an SEO agency and you told them, let's start doing something. Now, after 3 months period or 6 month period, how are you going to measure your success? And how are you going to ensure that you want to keep on doing this activity month over month? So number one thing that you want to do is collect the data from the past. And if you've worked with an agency, you know that the one thing that we do is we create monthly and a weekly reports. And the whole idea is just to make sure that we are compiling and on top of our data of every single week. So understand the report. The second is analyze the present. So all these activity that you had done in the 3 months, what is happening right now? Are you at a place which is better than what you were doing 3 months ago? And based on this, you can actually predict the future. And how? So let's say in 3 months time, you delivered a growth of 5% month over month or 20% month over month. Now, you know that because of these particular activity, this result has improved. Now I can keep doing this again and again. And no doubt my example can seem very simple, but essentially this is how it is happening across any marketing activity that you're doing at your company. And finally, you can take action. So which is very, very important. So let's say you understood that in 3 value propositions, let's say ABC, A proposition is the one where you are getting, for which you are getting the maximum conversion rate. Now you want to make sure that all the advertising that you're doing across different platforms, it uses this particular messaging because this is converting the most. So this framework, I'm going to also show you where for some of the use cases and applications that I have done for different companies. And I think this is something that I'll also be repeating even at the end of the webinar, because that is something I feel that that you can take away and apply at your organization. So let's see marketing analytics in action. And I want to show you how we helped optimize the media spend. Now, before we move on, I want to explain this use case to you. So number one thing is, let's say a company owner come to you and he says that I have 10 lakhs per month or 50 lakhs per month marketing budget. Now, the fundamental problem with any marketing spend is how do you spend? Now, it sounds very easy, but it's very complex to understand. You don't want to spend that 50 lakhs all in newspaper ads, or you don't want to spend that completely on Facebook ads. How do you divide that budget on different platforms so you get the maximum ROI? Or it has different perspectives as well. So let's say you are advertising in 50 different countries. What is the country on which you should be maximizing your media spend, or where you should be scaling down your media spend? So even before starting, the best thing to in analytics is you start acquiring the data. You cannot tell these things unless you have already a data built with you. So my suggestion to clients, or let's say my suggestion to people out there always is do some test. So let's spend lakh on every single country and see how the results are coming in. Now we did it for one of the client, and it's a gaming company, just to give you a background. And this is what we observed. I'm not sure whether you're able to see it. Let me just put this aside. That's great. Okay, so we had all these countries, and we have written down what we spent on all these countries and what were the clicks. Impressions is actually a measure of how many people actually saw my ads, how many times my games were installed, what is LTV, lifetime value of customer. So for instance, one single customer, how much he actually paid me over a period of time. And then what is the purchasing users, how many people actually purchased it, and what is the actual revenue out of this, right? So yeah, if I just have to look at this data, my question was, or the question from the company was, what are the top 3 countries where we should increase our budget, and what are the top 3 countries, or you can say bottom 3 countries, where I should scale down my ad budget. Now, as simple as that looks, it's a very complex decision-making process. First of all, you need to understand what is the metric that you want to benchmark to, or you can say, what is the metric that you're going to see to make this decision. So first thing that comes into mind is, let's start looking at revenue, where I got the maximum revenue from. So if you look at that, you will notice that Canada always comes at top, because we almost earned like $11 million there, $11,000 there. But if you go and ad spend, you go and see that you have almost spent like $27,000 there. So your actual ROI on this country is not really that great, or even it's less than 0.5. Now, as you start looking into data more, you will notice that there are other countries where you didn't spend as much, but your ROI is absolutely amazing. So for instance, ES, which stands for Spain, we spent almost like $4,000, and we had a revenue of almost $3,500. And similarly, in let's say another country, Denmark, we almost spent $2,000, and we had a revenue of $1.2. But even this data can have many loopholes. So how do you actually measure that? So it doesn't mean that if I start spending more, we have seen it practically, that if we start spending more, the revenue will also be huge in that particular area. So you want to look at other data as well. So one thing that marketers do is they start looking at LTV. For instance, in Denmark, if I convert one particular user, he is paying me $6. And if I look at Canada or Norway or US or even Singapore, my lifetime value of single customers is actually looking really good. But even this data sometimes it is not huge. You want to go back and look at the conversion rate. How many people are you actually able to convert over a period of time? So the point here is, there are so many data points in there, and you want to actually, depending upon the objective of your business, if you just want to maximize the revenue, or if you just want to maximize the user base that you want to convert on a later stage, your decision making can completely change. So you need to take two things into account. Number one is, what is the top 3 or top 4 metrics you're going to use to actually decide which country to advertise or increase the spend in. And there are many analytical models which are deployed to understand this. And some companies, if you go into Netflix or Z5 teams and talk to their data analytics team, they will also they have built their own analytical models. They have built their own scoring systems which decide what kind of content they actually want to create and what kind of content they actually want to promote. So this thing, at some point you can do manually, but eventually you need some models at your own company to decide how you want to actually increase the ad spend. But anyhow, I hope this example actually clears things up about one of the application of optimizing media spend. Another example that I want to talk about is channel efficiency, and this is a very you can say detailed, I mean, very common use case. So let's say there are 5 different marketing activities. Which marketing activity is working the best for you? And if you're talking about social media advertising and advertising at 4 different platforms, what is the platform where you are, where you should be spending more? I think there are questions coming in. All right, so I'll be answering this at the later stage. I just
Yeah.
got the notification. All right. So yeah, I was talking about what are the channel efficiency and using Google Analytics. So for instance, this is a week's data from a client. So where we were trying to understand, and our objective is booking the appointment. So this, I'm sorry. So we were getting this data from different sources, and we have compiled it in Google Analytics. And our goal was to actually see where we are getting the most appointments from, and what is the conversion rate. So we try to identify what is we wanted to understand what is the channel in which we should be investing more. So if you look at this data, maximum appointments have been coming from social. So 87 actually came from social, and 82 came from direct, and from organic search it was 76. So what is the marketing activity in which should be investing in? But if you look at the other data point, which is conversion rate, you see 2.26% of the conversions that actually come from organic search. Now, this is a very strong data point for a marketer or a business owner, because it is telling me that if I bring in more people from organic search, the chances of my business is or my overall sales increasing is huge. And because this and other data points also support this, because these people are spending more time on my website. These people are also visiting more pages, and the bounce rate is actually least when people are coming from organic channels. So that's why so for this business, spending on organic search is extremely important, and they know that in the next 6 months we want to ramp up the SEO activities rather than our social activities. But let's say even in social, the number is not actually bad. Of course, the search is good, but what is the actual social media channel which is giving me the maximum conversions? So we went into the data again, and we tried to identify Facebook, Instagram stories. We were advertising at 3 different channels and mediums, and you can see there the conversion, no doubt, is from Facebook. It's huge, but with Instagram, my conversion rate is 3%. Now, data point is still low because the number of users for Facebook were huge and number of users from Instagram were not high. But what if I try to bring as many users from Instagram? So for instance, the test for next month can be that we try to increase traffic from Instagram and see if we can still maintain this conversion rate. Now, if this conversion rate is maintained in the next test, this particular means I need to ramp up my budget for Instagram ads rather than Facebook ads. So essentially, this type of application allows you to understand on what marketing activity you should be focusing more on. And this will also help you actually get the best returns from your marketing or advertising budget. Now, the final example is absolutely interesting, where we'll be talking about how to even predict the outcome of a campaign even before you start it. Now, this type of activity cannot be done for all the marketing activities. For instance, if you want to start doing a print advertising or let's say TV advertising, you cannot be even sure how many people actually are going to look at it and how many people are actually going to convert. Let's say you start doing TikTok ads, which marketers are still trying to explore. You won't be able to understand or you can say predict the results because you still are sitting on very less data. But let's say you have spent $10 million at a platform, or there's a platform which gives data about its, you can say, numbers, and you can go back and look at the past experiences of working with the client. and you can actually predict the results. So let me tell you this particular use case. So there was a big design agency, or I should say design platform, so which were trying to launch in UK, and they wanted to understand what is the areas of what is the, you can say, design service they should be investing in. So they have multiple design services. They created book design, they created artwork design, motion graphic designer, print design, mascot design, 3D graphic design. So what is the activity for which they should actually be advertising? So we went into different mediums and try to understand and get the data and predict the results. So we try to identify how many searches are happening for each of the design services. What is the estimated traffic we can get? And this estimated ad traffic, again, it's not something which tools give you. You actually need to look at your data or your experience of working in that market, in that particular niche, to identify how much traffic you can actually attract from there. So we created this data point, and this third aspect was we try to identify what is the average cost we'll be paying for every single user click. Now, based on our conversion rate data, we were able even to predict the cost per acquisition. So we have this data on conversion rate in different industries with us. So this actually allowed us to identify what our average cost per acquisition for different services is going to be. Now, while this data was extremely important, even before starting a campaign, I have predicted a range, or you can say these numbers, of course, can vary and it can be adjusted at a later date. But right now, what this data is telling me is whether I should be investing in marketing activity or not. Similarly, it is also telling me what is the design service. If I choose to advertise, what are the design services I should be prioritizing, because where I will be getting the maximum ROI. So let's say if someone pays me even more for 3D graphic design, it doesn't mean I should be investing in it, because my cost per acquisition might be higher for the client itself. So the point is, this kind of methodology allows you to predict the results, and you can even build these kind of models at your company, or you can do it for your own business. And even before you are starting, you can be sure what you can actually expect. And in the longer run, even though this might seem that it's very time consuming, but I would suggest this kind of activity allows you to save money in the longer run. And if you build a culture around this in a company, you'll be able to save not just your money, but your clients, and you'll be able to build trust over a period of time. So yeah, essentially these were the three examples. And if you have more questions about this, we'll be discussing it at a later stage. But what exactly can you do for a business? I know the examples I gave you were maybe kind of advanced, or maybe something that you cannot do right now. What is one thing that you can go back at your company and do? This one more question. I'll be answering it later on, of course. So yeah, what can you do at your own company? So again, I'm going to tell you this because this is something that we have built over a period of time. So always start by writing what exactly are you doing. So are you doing social media posts? Are you creating content? Are you creating videos? Are you investing in off pages? Are you buying backlinks? So write down all the marketing activities that you are actually doing. Second thing is, for each of the marketing activity, there is a specific marketing metric. Now write down what you expect from it. What are your major, you can say, parameters that you want to track. Collect all this data and compile at one place. And finally, you can actually drive insight from it and act on it. Now, as simple as it sounds, there are two intricacies here which might be difficult for you. Number one is collecting the data. So I think this is a very complex challenge, because I see a lot of marketers, they are doing marketing without setting a framework on how to collect the data. Now, just as a suggestion, even before you are starting to do something in marketing, you should always have a analytic strategy build up. That's what we call it. So what are the things even before you're starting, you're going to track? So if I'm doing Facebook ads, I'm going to actually track how many people came to my website because of Facebook ads, how many people added my product to cart when I started ads, what was the conversion rate at each step, what is the cost per impression, and different type of targeting, what was the CPM for different audience sizes. So you need to have an analytic strategy. What exactly are you going to track? And that you should be compiling from the very first date that you're doing campaign. And finally, in the end, you should be able to drive insights from it. So driving insight itself is a very complex part because you can easily get distracted. So you must be starting with a point where you are answering what are the top 3 things that you want to identify from this. So for instance, are you trying to calculate channel efficiency? Are you trying to calculate the result in the next 2 months or next 3 months? Are you trying to calculate the ROI or maximize ROI on our activity? So if you're answering these 2 questions, I think you'll be able to implement this strategy easily at your company. And finally, there is one approach that I recommend everyone, which is called a funnel-based approach. I talk to businesses all the while, and so I'm giving you one example where people just want to run ads and they want to see the business coming. That's now how it happens. In e-commerce, it takes around 9 different engagement before actually comes back and make a purchase. So 9 different engagement means he looked at your ad, he clicked at your ad when he saw it for the third time, and he actually tried some product, then he left your site, and then he was retargeted at, let's say, display ads. Then he again went to your website and entered your email ID just to get that 20% free coupon. And he didn't even sign up, he didn't even purchase. Then he went back to the email, and actually when he saw the offer, he tried to make the purchase. So nobody, even as a consumer, you do not go and buy at the very first stage. So you always need to have this funnel based approach. Now, what is the exciting thing about funnel-based approaches? That it always works. I mean, there will be loopholes, but it is always going to work. So for instance, when a customers come to you, which is called awareness stage, when he knows about a product for the very first time, a lot of people will not come back to you. But whoever comes, he is into the consideration stage where we actually say that he's comparing comparing your product against different, you can say, other products or your competitor. And finally, he is actually making a purchase. And even after purchase, what exactly he is doing? Is he coming back to purchase again? And advocacy, which basically means, is he referring about your product among his friends? Is he generating word of mouth? Now, when you start implementing this, you will notice that you will be able to solve the problem of marketing from the very first day. Because if you are tracking how many people actually interacted with you for the first time and how many people went to the next stage, you are calculating the conversion rate at every single step. This is a very simple technique which popularly known as conversion rate optimization. But I think if you start building this approach at a company, you'll be able to generate more sales. Now, let me give you another example of this. So let's say you are a business which is generating leads, and you're generating leads from 4 different sources. You can actually see how many leads that you generated in the, let's say, in the consideration stage, how many leads are actually converting from different variety of stages. Ultimately, you will be able to tell, or you'll be able to predict, by increasing the budget on a certain channel, you'll be able to increase the overall conversion for your business. And even at the final stages, you can actually try and test out different referral strategies. Are people referring in WhatsApp? Are people referring in email? And what are the different referral models that is going to work for you? If you just implement this framework at a company, which is very easy to, I think, look at and create an approach for, I think you will be able to do amazing at a company. So yeah, I feel that this is I should suggest that you take away at your company, and I would recommend 3 different courses for you. So one is a micro master's program in by University of California. It's available on edX. It's a paid course, but I feel that you can still look at the data and look at the course structure, and you can even try to do this course if you feel that you want to pursue a career in this. And the second course, Marketing Analytics, is also free on edX. And the final is from University of Virginia. It's available on Coursera. So I think you can go back and check out these courses for you. So yeah, I wanted to spend some time on tools. And I think this is, we talked about getting this data. We talked about understanding how we are compiling this data. So it doesn't happen on its own. As a marketer, your mind comes in understanding what data to acquire, but ultimately it's the tools which do the job for you. And there are multiple, you can say, avenues from which you can acquire this. And there are multiple domains in which you acquire this. So for instance, web analytics is completely different from social media analytics, which is again completely different from search analytics. So when you're starting out, if you want to acquire what users are doing on your website, I always suggest that you need to have a web analytics strategy. So go into Google Analytics and make sure that even before you launch your product, even before your website goes live, Google Analytics should be there. If not Google Analytics, maybe some other tool, but there are many other. So there's something called an open source tool which is called Plausible Analytics. You can even try that. And SimilarWeb is also there. So these are kind of quantitative analytics tools where they give you numbers and try to tell you what is happening on each page, how people are bouncing, what is the different category, age group of people who are coming to your website. And you can even set goals and conversions there. But there's also an aspect of qualitative analysis. So let's say you have an app that is built on Android. So Hotjar actually allows you to collect and see how user is moving or scrolling through the app or your website on mobile or desktop. So this has huge application if you are a UI UX designer, but ultimately I still see this as a field of marketing analytics where you can actually use this tool to improve your copy and you can understand where people are actually dropping off. If they are reading a complete blog, if they are spending, let's say 2-3 minutes and still not taking an action, what exactly you can do to make them act, where you should actually be putting that call to action on your blog page. And then there is social media analytics, which allows you to actually see how Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn is actually working for you. And if you're not going for any tool, I strongly recommend that you start using the native analytics, at least as a small business owner out there, or let's say if you are a student who's listening to this, the native analytics will tell you a lot about how social media analytics actually happens. And then you can even create your way to advanced analytics in this. Then there is search analytics, which is extremely popular because this data is hugely available. So Google's own service is Google Search Console. If you are working in SEO, this is something you'll be always be doing. Then there is Ubersuggest and SEMrush, which also give you search and web analytics data. Then there's ad analytics, which allows you to get the data for ads that you're doing. And there are multiple tools for this. Even on the above side, what you gave, what I suggested you, there are a lot of tools in each of the category. It depends upon what is your use case, what is your budget, and what is your analytics strategy. Now, this is one tool I'm going to talk about, which is extremely important. And this is something I feel like that's more like an advanced concept, but I still wanted to mention it in the webinar itself. It's called Customer Data Infrastructure. And there's a tool called Segment. So let's say you have built an app. I think I'm getting a lot of chat messages. I'm sure. All right. So yeah, what Segment allows you to do is compile all your data at a single place and how data is flowing from one tool to the another. On an average, a company use 5 to 10 different, you can say, marketing tools. So let me put it this way. So you are probably using Google Analytics to get web analytics data. You are probably using an email marketing tool. You are even using an SMS marketing tool. Then social media you are doing. Then probably you are doing advertising as well. Now, what if you can get all this data at a single place and combine them to get amazing analytics? This is what Segment does for you. It allows you to connect these different, you can say, analytics tools and acquire the data from them and collect it at a single place. It even gets data from your, let's say, backend. If you are developing a technology product, it actually fetches data how user is behaving on your website or behaving on your app. So you can even get amazing insights about them. Just to give you one example of it, this allows you to create different segment of users. So let's say you have 2000 customers. There are certain qualities which are similar to certain users, and it's not in different kind of user. For instance, what we found for our customers was somewhere around 20% of our customers were reading specific websites. For instance, Content Marketing Institute, or they were going to specific forums on Reddit. So these kind of data actually allows us to segment the customers and tweak our marketing campaign messages. I would strongly recommend that you go to Segment and try it. It's there's a free startup program they're doing in which they provide a lot of credits for different tools, and I'm sure that if you're a small business owner, this is going to be, or if you're planning a startup, Segment is something that you should be trying out. And since this is an advanced tool, it might be difficult, so I recommend that you maybe talk to an expert in your category, or maybe your professors. Finally, Google Tag Manager, which allows you actually to set tags on your website. So tag is basically a JavaScript code which fetches a certain information and passes it on to a different product. So I won't go into detail because this is again a very complex topic, but Tag Manager, you can say, made it simple for marketers to set up analytics, and you didn't need to go to a coder to make things happen. While Google Tag Manager, you need to learn certain bit of coding. Segment has made it even simple. You can set it up visually. It's a kind of a drag and drop interface, and it's just an amazing tool. So yeah, essentially that's all of it, and I hope the session was amazing. So yeah, I think we can go and move on to questions. But I hope you learned a lot about the subject, and I'm sure that there are a lot of things that I might have skipped and I wouldn't have been able to comment on more. So let's start, and if you have questions, let's get talking about it.
Okay, great. So I think it was very informative. Thanks a lot, Siddharth. And I think I also learned a lot of things from this. Though I like analytics, but then there were things which we were missing. So thanks a lot for that. I think somebody who is not into analytics would have learned a lot of things from this thing. That is for sure. So I already got 2 or 3 people who are saying recordings kab mil rahi hai, kind of thing. So they want to show it to other people also. So thanks a lot. Let us take questions. You can see Q&A segment, right?
Yeah, I can see it. I see a lot of questions.
Yeah. Okay. So let us take the first question, which is from Anak Chaudhary. How marketing analytics is different from data analytics, or it's almost same?
Right. So again, I think I made this question live. Like people will be able to see it. Okay.
Yeah, everyone is able to see the question.
Okay, so how marketing analytics is different from data analytics? I'm just reiterating it in case you didn't heard. So it's completely different. So think of marketing analytics is as a subset of data analytics. When you're talking about data analytics, it's a huge field. Data can be about anything. So data about, let's say, how much water supplies is going in Mumbai, for instance, or how many people are traveling in train and how you can actually improve the traffic. It has huge implications, and the ambit it covers is entirely huge. Marketing analytics is something where you can apply the applications, or you can say apply the concepts from data analytics and make it work in marketing analytics. But essentially, the ambit is mostly around marketing, sales, or on the product side, which eventually helps you improve sales and improve your marketing team's performance. I think that answers the question.
Definitely. So there's another question, which is which analytical tool is good. I think Siddharth gave that answer because it was asked at around 4:14. So I think that is answered because the last slide was about it. If you are not able to, if you have another specific question, then we can take that up. Another anonymous question is there: how to reduce my bounce rate in initial stages when I am trying to get organic audience base? Yeah, Siddharth.
All right. So I think since we are doing a session on marketing analytics, I think I can speak more on this.
Yeah.
So this is a very interesting question. So bounce rate is a most talked about concept in the industry, but I still feel that there are a lot of myths going around this.
Very true.
So let me put it this way. Bounce rate is actually defined as when user comes to your website or lands on a page, he doesn't take any action, he doesn't go to any page, he doesn't take any action, and he leaves the platform. That's actually a bounce, right? But most people actually define bounce rate as someone who came to your website and simply left it, right? But let's say that person read the complete blog, that 1500 to 1800 words, and he didn't go to any page, he didn't let's say did anything, he didn't played a video, but he read the whole blog. That's not a bounce. So first thing that I would recommend you is you need to actually define the bounce rate for your own company. Most of the times we even think that there is a bounce rate issue, but it's not. So in the initial stages of Bezel, let me give you an example. We were getting a bounce rate of 67% on our blog post. But when I looked at other data, and I'm talking about 2 years back, I was looking at other data. People were spending 2.5 minutes on an average on my website. It doesn't make sense.
So that sorry, but your voice is breaking a lot. So
Can you hear me right now?
yeah, but it is breaking. Can you switch off the video for a minute? If we can test that.
Uh,
Okay, now if you
how's
can.
it now?
Yeah, if you can answer it now.
Okay. So what I was saying is we were getting like 67% bounce rate, but people were spending almost like 2.5 minutes on my website, 3 minutes. That is not a bounce because someone is engaged with me for a long time. That's not actually bounce rate. So first thing when you do for business, when you start your, let's say, business, you should define the bounce rate for your website. And there are a lot of things, first of all, in which you can bounce. So let's say you implement scroll tracking on your website, and let's say if someone reads the 100% or 75% of your blog post, you send an action, or you can say an event, you fire an event, which actually ensures that it's not a bounce. So every time an action is taken in Google Analytics, your bounce rate is actually made. So someone plays a video on a website, comes in, set up a tracking that the video was played, and it will not be counted as bounce. So having said that, the second improvement that you should always be doing is looking at the qualitative analytics, which I mentioned the tool Hotjar. So to improve that, you simply need to go and see how users land on the website, how much they are scrolling, and if they're scrolling, what is the point they are stopping or they are dropping. So that would ensure, I think, that your bounce rate is eventually dropping over a period of time.
Okay, so that you can, I think, turn on your video. The audio is same, but if you can connect something else with the audio, that will be great.
Let me try that.
You can try a earphone or something.
Let me do that.
Yeah, because there are comments that they are not able to hear. But okay, let us move on to the next one. So if you have any other question on bouncer, then you can surely ask. But I think Siddharth summarized it really well. Okay, Naman is having a question. How should we leverage Google Data Studio to better visualization?
How should we leverage Google Data Studio to better? So it's an amazing question, actually. So actually, the only application that Google Studio allows us you to do is create marketing dashboard for your business. So eventually, what is happening is, and you can actually customize it on your own need. So let's say, what is the number one priority for you? If you are a social driven business, your dashboard should begin from social, right? And Google Data is a huge and amazing tool for that. The second more amazing, Google Data Studios, is saves tons of time. So you have created a dashboard where you just need to go and look at anytime you want. The reports are live. And even if you are an agency, I'm not sure, but it also creates an amazing experience for your clients. So doing service is one thing, creating an experience is totally another. So I think Google Data Studio allows also that. And lastly, I would say bring Google Data Studio as a culture in your company. I always use this word culture because I think the more you inspire your team to actually use it, the more applications you will find. So even Google Data Studio internally in company, we use it for different levels. So let me give you one example. My employee came up with. So we have created this dashboard for all of our clients differently. But my employee came up with amazing application. He said, why don't we, for our internal purposes, create a dashboard where we are getting data for all the clients. So every single day we don't have to go and check the individual performances, which is a huge application. So I think even without visualization, there are many things for which you can use Google Data Studio, and you should try it out.
Okay. There's a Kaushal is asking a question. Can this be a good model where spending is higher than the revenue earned?
Yes, it happens all the time. I mean, so let me give you one example. It's from what's that particular tool called? Mm, So there's a competitor of Google Drive. I think it's called, I don't remember, maybe it's Box or something like that. So in the initial days, they were spending 3 times, or you can say what a user was paying them on the first month. They were spending 3 times of that. So let's say, just to give you example, if they were acquiring customer at $90 in the first month, they were earning only $30. Right now, as a marketer, it shouldn't make sense for you, but as a business, it does. Why? Because their analytics suggested someone who came with them, they were spending at least a year with them. If my business's churn is actually low, right, I can ensure that these people who are paying $30 end up actually paying almost $360 in a year. So that makes a great business case. So most of the time, in fact, when you go for funding, right, you must have seen that people ramp their marketing activities, and we at our end we feel that these people are spending so huge, but they are not in looking for you can say revenue, or you can say ROI in the first sale. They are just knowing that they get the first customer, and then they can ramp up their sales over a period of time. Let me give you another example. Uber was spending 500 rupees initially on the street, right, when they came up. So they were spending almost 500 rupees. Second was they were also doing advertising. So let's say I'll add maybe a customer acquisition cost of 500 more, 600 rupees to give me a free ride, right? But right now, as a user, we have spent almost maybe 50,000, 1 lakh, 5 lakhs, I think, in these years. So I think it's a completely good model as long as it aligns with your business.
So I think connecting that, there was a lifetime value of a customer also when Siddharth shared that chart with us. So when he used to spend dollars and then see that if he was spending in Denmark, the lifetime customer value was around $6, and in US and other region it was around $3. So if you spend that much amount, then you know that if I'm getting a customer on board at a lower cost, or if he's paying me around $1 or less than $1 and acquisition cost is more, but the lifetime value is higher than that. So if you understand that part, that will be, you will be able to understand that why some people spend a lot and some people don't.
True.
Okay. So then we have an anonymous question, attendee who is asking a question. Please, guys, do write your name. It will help us. If your question is good, we can bring you in, or if we are not able to understand the question, we can bring you in. Okay. Which are the essential tools, paid or free, for early stage startup having 1,000 visitors and less than $1,000 revenue a month?
So first of all, don't go for paid one. If you are working at under $1,000, I would suggest there are still ways you can operate on a free basis. But at the same time, I feel that there are certain tools which actually have huge ROI. It doesn't seem so, but they actually have. That's why we always internally, I think we were assessing, we with a team of 17 people, we are almost using 12 different tools in our company, right? And it sounds crazy, but even for me it was really eye-opening, because they solve a lot of things, but you need to have a balance in how much you can pay and how much you should ignore. But let me let me start with one major example. So I think for web analytics, you can go with Google, Analytics. And if you have to talk about social, I think you can go with native analytics of each of the platform. If you want to go for search analytics, you can still, it's not really amazing, but you can use Google's free data planner. And then there are other tools. If you want to even go for instance, Hotjar, the tool I mentioned, it even provides you a free version of it. So there are a lot of free options that you can actually pounce on if you are trying to set up you can say analytics strategy at your company.
Okay. The second question is, what tool did you use to find impressions and click? So I think Aditi, your question was at 424, but is it for a specific thing? Is it for a website, or maybe I think it will be for Facebook? Siddharth,
I'm assuming that this question might have been related to the data that I shared.
Yeah.
So I think Aditi, whatever the advertising platform that you're using, the impression and clicks data is shared by the platform itself. If you're talking about the final example that I shared, in which we were predicting the actual cost per acquisition, we were actually looking at the Google Keyword Planner at that time, and it gives us a really great insight on at least the search analytics.
Sorry. The next question is by Nachiket. Why service profitability or size is not taken into consideration? Because per acquisition cost can be higher, but revenue or profit can be higher as well. I think Nachiket, we took that in the discussion that we were doing, right? Siddharth?
True.
Yeah.
I would comment that service profitability is always in there. So I was just giving example that it didn't make business sense for the client at that time because his offering was completely different and he was bootstrapped, but he was trying to create a platform. So in the initial stages, his margins were really thin. So
Yeah.
it didn't make business sense for him to continue doing that.
True. So Nachiket is having another question. Which tools are essential for SaaS-based company? I think. Google Analytics is what he is writing. And any other thing that you would like to suggest?
So for SaaS, I think you should have other tools as well. For instance, you should have internal analytics built up. So by internal analytics, I mean something that you won't find anywhere. There are tools, but essentially it gets very costly. So basic analytics that you should be setting up is what are your active daily users, what are your active monthly users, and how much time they are spending once they log in. Are they spending 1 hour? Are they spending 30 minutes? I think these are extremely essential parameters for you. If we are using a payment solution, most of the payment solutions, recurring payment solutions, also offer the data on churn rate. So there are two important parameters. I won't comment on the tool, but these two important parameters you should be tracking in SaaS is the churn rate, and the second is cohort of your paid customers. So let's say someone who signs up this month, how many months he end up actually paying you, or what is the exact time period in which they leave. Are they spending 3 months, are they spending 6 months with you, or are they just leaving after 1 month? So I think these two parameters, if you can even set up this in Google Analytics if you want, but I'm not sure whether your team is capable to do that. But you can try that, and there are payment solutions like Stripe and Razor which also offer this.
Siddharth, we lost on the last line.
So there are tools like Stripe payment tool and Razorpay, which also give this analytics.
Okay. So Nachiket, hope I think that answers your question. Stripe is a good tool. We have seen that. I have personally seen that. Jyoti Prakash is asking a question. I am pursuing MBA in marketing domain and interested to learn marketing analytics. So I think the question went down. Okay. So from where to start and practice? I think Jyoti, Siddharth shared a slide of what are the courses there. I think that can be one. But if Siddharth, you want to add something more to that.
Honestly, like I didn't do MBA, so I can't comment on that. But I will give you one instance. So one of my employee, when he left after working 2 years with me, he actually joined a course in IASC. It was in data analytics. But I think right now he is working in media and entertainment, and where he's actually working in marketing applications. So again, going back from the first question that I discussed, data analytics versus marketing analytics. If you're strong with data analytics, you can actually work in any marketing analytics domain.
Okay. So Viraj is having a question. So he is complimenting you. Complimenting you. It was a very valuable session, sir. Especially the tools and techniques mentioned. My question to you is, what would be effective strategy to drive organic traffic to a newbie website?
So, Viraj, thanks. We really liked it. Answering your question, I feel that it depends upon your business. And not all businesses can drive organic traffic initially. So, let's say if you're coming in with completely new solution which people didn't know about. So, for instance, when Uber launched in 2008, nobody was searching for, let's say, get a shared cab, right? It was completely a new concept. So it depends upon what type of business you are driving. But organic traffic takes time. If you are, it's a new website. If you're looking to get results, don't go for organic immediately. Like organic, you should be planning for a year. It's a marathon. It
Yeah.
takes time. So it should be a part of strategy, but it shouldn't be a single focus.
I think very true example given by Siddharth. So if your business is like something which Uber was trying to do, so there won't be a lot of searches also around those things. So people won't be searching for cabs online at that time. So
Right.
understand that part also, because it is very common now. So people search and then organic search can happen. So do try to list down the keywords also if you are trying to target in the SEO and those kind of things. So
True.
yeah. So Kaushal is having, I think it is his second question. First one we have already answered, I think. Answer. So how impressions are important? Also, what are impressions? As in YouTube, without opening the video, you can view or get the gist of the video by just hovering on it. Can it be also considered as an impression, Siddharth?
Right. Yes. So, Kushal, that's a very interesting question, and seems that you're actually working in this field, maybe. But impression has different connotations on different platforms. So, for instance, if you stick on a frame for just over a second, and there is one video, it's counted as one impression, right? And so, by impression, I mean someone who hasn't actually clicked on the video. But if you actually went there and actually start video and watch it for at least 3 seconds, that's, even if your video is like 1 minute or 3 minute or 10 minutes, if you watch it for 3 seconds, it's counted as one video view. So this is a big debate in industry. What should be actually counted as a video view?
Video view.
But impression is totally different. It's actually how many times you are seeing that frame of the video without actually playing it.
Okay. I hope Kaushal that answers your question. Nisarg is asking a question. Can you explain about direct and non-source of the traffic in Google Analytics, or can we refine it to find exact source? Okay. So I also have the same question which Nisarg is asking. The reason is we get a lot of direct traffic. Okay, Siddharth.
True.
So, and a lot of times we do not know the source of that traffic. So if we are getting it from organic, we know that Google search is the source. If we are getting it Facebook, we know the source. Instagram, we know the source. But for direct, I think it is a very big dark hole. Dark hole, I think, is the right word for us to understand that where is the traffic coming from, so that we are not
Right.
able to optimize. So what will be your suggestions for that?
So number one thing is it depends upon what platform we are using to find the web analytics. So let me give you compare two tools for you. So one is so Google Analytics is a closed source analytics platform, which basically means how its internal workings are. We do not actually know. We actually know as much as Google actually tell us. So if there is a direct source, it can mean multiple things. Number one, the which is very common is that person actually searched for your website in the browser itself and took .com and just came to your website directly without actually going to search engine. So he went directly to your website. That's one connotation. In the second case, it happens a lot of time that, and I'll give you one example how this can be solved.
Yeah.
Many referral clicks are sometimes not even counted as you can say direct traffic, and sometimes Google again even not find social traffic as direct traffic. And this happens because that user is sometimes identified as you can say So any user identity is built of two parts. So one is browser. The second is a timestamp of that particular user, that with the particular time he entered the website. So these are the two parameters which Google Analytics use to build a user identity. And that user comes to your website again from a different source. If he had actually worked come directly initially, sometimes Google Analytics misfires. So there are many cases like that where it's not able to track the traffic that is coming from different sources and it attribute to direct. There are some ways to solve it, but it's not foolproof. One of the ways we always do is use the UTM link. So UTM link is where you add parameters to the URL. And can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you repeat the last line?
So what I was saying is, if there is no foolproof way to actually solve this if you are using Google Analytics, because eventually what is happening is you rely on Google's own technology to make sure that you're tracking the data, and there is no editing it. You can just use their feature to make things work. But one of the technique is using UTM links. So you add that in your URL. And I think a lot of people out there who are from marketing community, they understand how this works.
Yeah.
So you just tell Google, and there are specific you can say default categories that Google have built, and you can surpass them by adding this. And why this actually works is because Google always prioritizes URL parameters more than the default groupings it has made available in Google Analytics platform. So if someone even comes from, let's say, LinkedIn, Google really doesn't know whether it comes from your personal profile or your company profile. You can actually solve this by creating UTM builders, which actually tells we can parameters in your personal profile and plus the company profile. But there is no foolproof way to do that. There are some tools, however, which actually let you do so. So one of the free platform is called Plausible Analytics. It's comparatively new platform. I think a few months back I heard about it. So it's open source platform. Basically means they made it open how analytics look for you, and you can actually define it for your own company, and you can make changes in the code and apply it for your website.
Okay. Can you name the platform again? It is possible.
Plausible Analytics. I'll just type it in the chat.
Yeah, so that will be helpful. Okay, thanks a lot. Great. So I think one of the solutions which I got from Siddharth's thing is you can use UTM links. That will be helpful to everyone because that will also help you. So I like the example where he said that from LinkedIn, if the traffic is coming from LinkedIn, you don't know that if it is coming from your page or a company's page or some link that was shared somewhere. So that will be very helpful to you if you use UTM links. You will be able to understand that this traffic is coming from this page. Okay. I think we can take the next question. Sai Badri is asking a question that what do we need to learn to build our own social media analytics tool for Facebook, Twitter, and other SM platforms?
Yeah, so I feel a lot of competition.
Yeah, I was
But yeah,
about
I'll tell you honestly, this is a very difficult field to be in. So let me put it this way: even before you start learning to build analytics platform, you need to work on two things. So number one is what are the actual metrics, and why will it matter to the people you're organizing and designing the tool? That is one. Second is you need to and this is the most critical. I want everyone to hear this. It's extremely important that you comply with these platforms' privacy policies. So there are many businesses in my industry, in social media analytics industry, who were doing $5 million or $10 million in sales annually, but they are shut off by Facebook because they didn't comply with the policies. They were storing data in a different way. So even if you start learning to build the platform, I would strongly recommend that you understand their privacy policies, because you can do anything but you cannot mess. And especially after post Cambridge Analytica period,
yeah.
It has become very strict. In fact, Facebook has recently announced last month they will be checking each and every analytics platform which is getting data from Facebook every single year. They'll be auditing it, and if you are cutting it, there is no way you can run the platform. So it's a very difficult industry to be in. You need to understand their API, which is the easiest part, I would say. You just need a developer who can make it work, but it's very time consuming. Like, just to give you an idea, it took us 3 years to actually build the tool and launch it.
Okay, so if you are in for a long haul, then only get into this thing, or else.
True.
Plus, also understand that in 3 years' time that they were developing the tool, the analytics and everything were also evolving a lot. So it was
True.
not the same impression that we used to calculate in the initial day. The definition also evolves after some time. So if those of
Right.
you are using analytics, you will sometimes get a notification that this has changed and those are the things. Now they are counting it like this, or now you will be just seeing the 10-second view in the analytic and not the 3-second one while you are doing ads and those kind of things. So understand you have to. There are a lot of nitty gritties while making the tool or doing things. Also, I think there were a lot of tools which were using follow back things for Instagram in the initial days. I think unfollow was one of the tools which got, I think, banned by Facebook. I don't remember, but there are a lot of tools. So do remember that part also while creating. I think we can move on to next question, Siddharth.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Naman has a question. In case specific to search analytics, how should we classify organic results in comparison to paid results to be marked successful? As you know, SEO is a slow growth growth platform. Sorry.
Right. Let me just classify organic results in comparison to paid to successful. So, Naman, let me put it this way. How do you calculate the ROI of SEO? This is a question that everyone asks me every single day. So I'll give you one small way to do that. So let's say you are ranking for 100 different keywords, which is very less. Let's say you are ranking for 100 different keywords and you are generating almost even 10 people from each keyword. You are generating almost 1,000 people on your website every single day, right? Now imagine what would it cost you to get traffic for those particular keywords if you're doing a paid advertising. So let's say on an average you are spending almost another 100 rupees to get one single click for each of the keyword, right? So now you are suddenly your cost looks like 1 lakh. So the point is, if you had to bring those 1,000 people on your platform by doing paid advertising, you had to actually pay 1 lakh rupees every single month. Now uh, if you want to compare this with paid, now it becomes extremely easier. So imagine you're spending 1 lakh on paid advertising at the same time. What is the ROI of both the areas? And if you have set up analytics correctly, you can go back and see what is the ROI of each of the platforms or each of the channel. And eventually the best part is the traffic that you are getting from SEO is going to increase month over month. So I think there is something called compounding effect, which makes sure that you're actually saving more in the long run. SEO, I'm a performance marketer myself. Like my core expertise is in uh, Facebook
Siddharth,
advertising.
Siddharth, can you?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's much better. Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I don't know why it's happening.
Yeah. So I think it's a bad day for us because we never had that issue that speakers were not able to hear or speak till today morning. In the afternoon session, we had one speaker who was not able to hear us, and then in this session also. But I think the presentation went really smooth. There weren't any glitches there.
I hope so. I
I think
hope
I
so.
started my video and then there is some issue.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to summarize the final point about that question, I'm a performance marketer myself, but in the last 2 years that I have realized that there is nothing beating SEO. If you can get organic traffic on your website, there's nothing like that. You try to look at any platform, Carvale, Cardeco, you will, or edtech companies like Byju's, you go and check the data on SimilarWeb, you will notice all of them are acquiring 80% of their traffic on their website from search engine.
Very true.
So the point is, if you want to grow really, really, really big, SEO is eventually something that you want to invest your energy in.
Because see, I will like to add one point here. Everybody understand. So SEO is a game which is a long-term game. So if you invest for a year in SEO, you will be seeing the results for the next coming years also. Understand? And in the initial days, we don't have that much budget to invest in ads and other things, so that we can invest those times in the things like writing good piece of content, original content to be precise, and good pieces of content which will fetch you more results in the coming days. So for an example, we did one thing with Hungrito. When we were doing its website, we were getting just 500 visitors a month in last July. So then we doubled down on our efforts of SEO, and then we get around 10,000 to 15,000 people visitors every month between this number. And in today's time also, we are getting those visitors. So understand, SEO will help you in the long term if you don't work a lot on that things also. So that was one thing. I think we can we'll take Akshay's example. Right now, I'm using SPSS software and WEKA software for analyzing the data. According to your experience, any other good software?
So yeah, I don't know about Veka. I think it is. I'm not sure. I have heard about it. It's kind of a data mining platform. I'm not sure. SPSS. I think it was from IBM. I'm not sure again about SPSS, but I think I heard that
I
it's
think
from IBM a few years
yeah.
back. I was somewhere.
Akshay, we have
But if you,
thing. Akshay, if you can speak once.
yeah.
Akshay, you have to unmute yourself. Nachiket has written a very nice line. SEO is like SIP investment and gets exponential growth later on. But just now, Nachiket, in the downtime, I think a lot of people have seen their SIPs going down. So what would be a good example? But yeah, if you want to understand the concept of SEO, I think Nachiket is saying the right thing. It is like SIP. You invest every month a little bit of money, and then at the end of 15 years, 20 years, you see the results. And same way, if you invest just now on month basis in SEO, you will start seeing results 6 months
True.
down the line, 15 months down the line a lot. Yeah, Akshay, can you explain your products, the tools that you are using once?
I think Akshay, you're still on mute.
Yeah, Akshay, can you unmute yourself? Okay, no issues. I think he's having some issues, but say that you can continue with the answer.
So yeah, just to give you an idea, other tools I would say, I'm again benchmarking SPSS and giving the answer. So I think the other tools that you can go for is something like Adobe Analytics. And if you want to get even advanced solutions, Google Analytics has their advanced tools called Google Analytics 360, where you can do so many things with. So it has huge capabilities. Data is even more accurate as compared to what you get in the free tool. It's very costly, but I think if your client and your business can afford it, just go for it.
So I think there is always a fight with when it comes to a bigger company. They don't prefer Google Analytics a lot. So I have seen a lot of companies in US prefer Adobe Analytics a lot more than the Google Analytics. Have you seen the same thing in the market?
True.
Okay. Okay, Yashwanti. Okay, Yashwanti is having a question. Sorry if I pronounce your name in a wrong way. Key metrics to measure success of vertical marketplaces.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm just repeating what vertical marketplace is, and let me know, Yashwanti, if I'm wrong. So by vertical marketplace, I assume which sell a single category of product. So for instance, someone who is just selling furniture and he's not selling anything else. So, and someone who is just selling, let's say, bed sheets is selling bed sheets, or mobile cases, just mobile cases. It's not like Amazon or Flipkart, which is horizontal e-commerce.
Yeah.
So I think for vertical marketplaces, my best like approach to this kind of business, always go for individual product level analytics. And I was talking to Sahil just before the event, and this is the one use case that we are trying to solve. So let's say if you have
we lost you there.
Sorry.
We heard you about till the vertical thing. You explained them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be slower.
Yeah.
So when we talk about vertical marketplaces, I think it's very important to understand the individual product analytics. So say if you have 100 different products or 500 different products, what are the top 5 or 10 products where you're getting the maximum CTR? What products are giving you the maximum ROI on the ad side? And which product is easier to run? So I think on the metric side, I would recommend CTR. CTR actually tells you on the marketing side which product is visually more appealing, or why it might be because its copy is absolutely amazing, or the title of the product is astounding. So CTR, I feel, is one of the most important key metric. The second is what is the ROI of the individual product, and the third can be what is the cost per click, or let's say product views or add to carts for individual products. But the point is, ultimately you have to go to product level analytics in vertical commerce.
Okay. So Yashasvi, you are online, and if you think it answers your question, then it's okay. We will move on to next question. Yashwanti. Okay, I think this answered her question. There is another question, Rahul. We don't have a lot of time. We have two questions now only. But how to collect data except surveys, feedback forms? That is a question which Darshil is asking.
How to collect data except surveys. So Darshil, I'll try to be quick because we are less on time. There are so many data that your team is already sitting upon. I mean, we have seen it across different organizations. Most of the times, your marketing sales team is already sitting on so much data that that hasn't been tapped into, and we sometimes call it unorganized data. I strongly recommend that you build a culture of collecting data. So whoever is, let's say, someone who is active on LinkedIn, just ask that person what is the post that is getting the maximum engagement, or what is the different kind of post where you're getting the most comments. I think just by building a culture of collecting data and acting on it, you will have so much data at your disposal that you wouldn't have imagined.
Okay. I think one piece of advice which I will be taking from this conversation with Siddharth is be a data first company and you will see wonders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, put it.
Yeah. So see, make it your strong point. So there are a lot of pillars for each company. So if data is one of those pillars, I think you will be there for a longer haul. And you will always understand how your product is responding in the online world, because online we get a lot of data points.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we can take the last question of Rahul. Is there a way we can do market analysis or ROI analysis for non-digital marketing channels also?
Yes, it can be done. The process is, again, you need to build a process around that, but it can certainly be done. So for instance, again, the data that I was giving you in the second example was from an online fitness company, but all these conversions were happening offline. We were just getting them different leads. So ultimately, what is happening offline, it needs to be somehow mapped on the online mediums as well. So you need to have an approach how you are organizing that data and collecting that data with the data that I was showing you on the screen. So as long as you come up with solutions on compiling the data, I think it can be tracked. And there was one example I met 1 year back, head of digital marketing at Policybazaar, and he has already created a methodology internally in the company in which they are tracking the ROI on their TV ad spend. So they have created this system where every time a TV ad is running, they start checking their analytics in a completely different way. They start checking the spikes in the website traffic. They start checking the spike in the platform, and they try to get amazing insights out of it. So I think as long as you have that analytical mindset, I think you can build up a process even for offline.
Okay. That was a great answer. I think Freecharge also had something like this, and Paytm also was seeing when they did IPL ads. So with Hotstar and those kind of things coming in, I think those ads will also start translating in those things and on things like that. So let me conclude it to everybody that I think Amazon's founder said this or not, I don't know, but it has been quoted by him. For him a lot of times, that if you have data, let's go with data. If you have opinions, let's go with mine. Okay.
Oh,
So
what a great way to end it. Amazing.
yeah, so I think for every founder or person who is into marketing, remember one thing, that your gut feeling will be at the end of the day taken into consideration. That is for sure, because you are the one who is making the decision. But if you have more data with you, So then you have a backing of that gut feeling. Okay.
True.
So always remember, and as a person, we will be always be able to take better decisions when we see more numbers. Okay.
Absolutely.
Make numbers your best friend. And I think, Siddharth, I got a lot of insights from the whole session. Okay. One thing is, I will again go deep down into Google Analytics for sure. I have done the advanced course and the basic one also, but I think I have not implemented a lot of things that I just saw in the presentation. So I think I need to go back and then sit accordingly and then do those things.